Testing, 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 testing. Because they're all going to be done. Yeah, but you don't have 32 columns to fix. You have to go through 32. Something the other day toward the end. Pretty bad. I'm not sure. Excuse me, it's not in your envelope. You told it to where I was using it today. Good evening, everybody. Want to welcome everybody here tonight. Of course, we have John Yale here tonight. We'll introduce formally in just a moment. He's from the health department here in Peabody. Just want to make sure before we get started if everybody washed their hands before they came in here tonight. You sure? If not, you're all quarantined. We're going to have to stay here for the next 2 weeks. Loosen them up a little bit. I have more than one bottle of Crown because that won't last for 2 weeks. Mimi would like to get things started. Mimi?
Welcome, everyone. This is technically a ritual, Ramadan ritual, and the chairman of ritual is in Florida. I get to welcome everybody tonight and welcome John Yale to join us tonight. Before I turn the program over to the rabbi and John, a couple of things I'll need to mention. Over the past month, we've gone several times and we've few of us have cleaned out the 3 closets. We've cleaned them out, organized them, and going forward, the 3 closets are going to be now locked. If you're cooking making a meat meal, make sure the dairy closet is locked, and vice versa. If you take something out, put it back where it belongs. You take a slot spoon out of the container, don't put it back with the pie service. You can't find them. Also, we have 2 sinks. Start using the meat sink and the dairy sink. Don't go at the same time. And also, the rabbi would like us, going forward, starting immediately, making a meat meal, take a plastic tablecloth, it can be in the kitchen, and cover the tables before you make a meat meal. And that's it. What? The keys are going to be left with Eddie. Eddie here? How is it he's going to be left? Where do we can leave when they're going to be accessible to everybody? Well, can we leave them someplace in the kitchen? Can we leave them in the kitchen someplace we can lock the doors? You only like the door you're using. You're making a meat meal, only the meat closet gets unlocked. So we're going to have to leave the keys, maybe in the cabinet, or we'll find a place to leave the keys. They'll be marked.
I think,
Or we can go to the
I don't want to get tied up on this, but I think what we're trying to do here, and this is pre-planning, when you go into the kitchen, if you're going to be using the meat, then lock the dairy. This way you can't make any mistakes. So that's pre-planning. If you're going to be using the dairy, lock the meat closet, right? So it's pre-planning. It can be worked out. All these things are going to be new, and they'll all have their little things with regard to how they. Let's not spend a lot of time on the locking of the doors. I can see we're going there.
What? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we'll post. Yes, it will be posted.
All of the changes, anything we're putting in place will be posted, and everybody will have.
In the kitchen.
There'll be people with you to help you get through this. Change is obviously difficult, and we want to implement these changes slowly. But we'll spend, I think, more time at the end of this meeting discussing some of the kashrut issues and some of those other changes. I don't want to get into that yet. I think we want to introduce our guest who wants to speak to us about the importance of food safety, so we can get him out of here tonight, and then we'll go into the minutia of the kitchen and kashrut and other things like that. We're going to try not to keep you here all night, all right? I was kidding about the 2 weeks. Do you want to say anything else?
No, I'm done. I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Then, without further ado, it is important for us to note tonight we have a expert in the field. John Yale joins us tonight. He has a culinary arts degree and has many years of working in local restaurants. He has a bachelor degree in hotel restaurant management from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, HACCP certification from NSCC, whatever that is, sanitary inspector at the city of Peabody. He'll tell us. Peabody, 15 years with an emphasis in food safety. When I asked Rabbi Bernie to get me an expert, he said it was simple, it was easy. I guess Todd already knows him, and he's been trained by John as well. So without further ado, let's welcome John Yale to give us some food safety tips tonight. John?
Well, thank you. It's not every day that I have a permit holder in the city ask for me to come to their place and speak. Usually they are not too pleased to see me, right? So, well, where do I start? Bernie asked me for my bio. I said, geez, I don't usually talk about that, but really my bio is, things I didn't mention is a husband of 25 years to a great wife, and a father to a hardworking young man. So these are the important things, right? But we're also going to talk about food safety. And I put together, it's a PowerPoint slide, but I typically I don't use the PowerPoint. So I'll just speak, and I do have some handouts that I can pass around, and we can make more copies for those who might need a copy. I do have 20 copies here. And I'm going to leave some good good tools here that you can use in your kitchen. So it sounds like there's a revival of sorts of food, focus on the food here. So this is a timely time to be here too, right? So I just read your message in the lobby about COVID-19. So some of the things we're going to talk about tonight is in that message. It's what you saw on TV the last few days about hand washing and using basic precautions that we would use for cold and flu to deal with a COVID-19, which is here. It's in the Commonwealth. It's there's people quarantined right now in the Commonwealth, self-quarantine. So it's nothing to be panicked about. We just need to take precautions. So I put together a brief 4-point plan maybe about food safety. Key elements being personal hygiene, using an approved source of food. So we want to buy food from licensed people. And we want to talk about temperature control, cooking temperatures, holding temperatures, and equipment cleaning and sanitizing. So that's kind of the gist of it. So just getting started, there's a lot of considerations when you have a group to feed, right? So this is a great hall. You can feed many people here. So I assume that you're preparing your own food at times. Is that correct? A lot of times. So a lot of considerations. What's going to be served? Who's going to be in charge, I think, is probably a good thing to focus on. Somebody who maybe has a background in the industry of food service, somebody who has some training, but not necessarily. The things we'll talk about tonight, I'm going to leave with you, and as long as you have a reliable person who can grasp a hold of these basic principles, then you're on your way to serving safe food. So one thing I want to say is approved sources. When we talk in a restaurant or in a commercial kitchen sense, we don't typically have home-cooked food as an approved source. But I know in congregations or in different communities, you might bring home-cooked food. Do you do that here? No. Okay. So that's a good thing. I would discourage that, but I know some people do that. So home preparation is perfectly fine at home, but when you're feeding a large group, you probably want to do it here, okay? Buy wholesome food, right? And bring it here, store it properly, and prepare it properly. So there's a lot of things to consider. Who's going to do it? Where are we going to do it? How far in advance are we going to prepare? Are we serving hot food or cold food? What's the condition of the equipment that we have? So if we have equipment, we're going to talk in detail about that a little later, but equipment should be good, not broken, not chipped, not worn. It should be easily cleanable. So we want to start with a clean facility, and then when we leave, we want it clean too. And handle our trash at the end of the event appropriately. We're going to talk about that at the very end, about trash and some rodent issues. So, yeah. So the first page, the first thing I want to talk about, if you have a handout or you can share one, I think Beth has more coming here. So our goal is to present wholesome food, right, to our groups. And present it in a way where we're preventing foodborne illness. So we don't want to get anybody sick when we're having a large gathering. So two ways food can be contaminated before it gets here, right? So when you're buying your food, make sure you're buying it at a place that's approved. You want to have a reliable source of food. The other way, food is inherently has bacteria in it, and you hear all the time, is E. coli in ground beef, or there's salmonella in chicken, and food is recalled. So we'll talk about that too tonight, about cooking temperatures, how we kill those certain bacteria. So food source is important, but also what we do with it once we get back here is important. You don't want to cross-contaminate. You won't want to contaminate it through our food handling. So food handling is going to be our first topic tonight. And when you talk about food handling, when you start your plan, let's select, like I said already, let's select a reliable and knowledgeable person who wants to take charge and make sure that the things that we're putting in place tonight are followed each event, okay? It's a good guideline that we're going to talk about tonight. First thing we want to do is make sure that we have healthy employees, healthy congregation, right? Volunteers. We're not here to work, but to volunteer your time. Anyone with symptoms of diarrhea, vomiting, fever, if you have sores, open sores on your hands or arms, you don't want to be handling food. If you're that sick, or if you have open wounds, you shouldn't be working with the food in the kitchen, okay? There's probably enough people to volunteer where we can get the healthy ones to do it. Runny nose, cough, sneezing. These are symptoms that you don't want to have around food prep area. So let's start first by selecting somebody to be in charge of overseeing that, and then second, making sure that we're coming here healthy, okay? Pretty common sense stuff. Personal hygiene is something that it starts at home. So you're going to maintain a good personal cleanliness. You're going to come here to prepare food, and you're going to be dressed in clean clothing. I don't know if you're required to have different clothing in the kitchen. Is that a requirement? Do you have to wear like a uniform or aprons or anything? You might have an apron, right? Hairnet, okay, and gloves, right? So gloves are going to be an important part of that too, right? So, so hand washing. I'm going to leave with you. I have a poster you can put up at your hand sink in the kitchen. I know you have a hand sink there, at least one, right? I think you have, I know you have one. It's been a little while since it's been up here, but we can maybe laminate this and post this at the hand sink. So it's the proper procedure for hand washing. So wet your hands, lather 20 seconds, vigorously rub, remove any soil, rinse and dry with a disposable paper towel. So we'll leave these materials here for you, okay? So that's a basic thing. Be intentional about it. So I was reminded when I came in tonight, I went to shake somebody's hand, and no, let's not do that. Are we shaking hands? No, we're not. It was a good reminder. And then I read this message. So I think that this is a great message to have here at the temple, especially around food handling, okay? So intentional hand washing, intentional about what we're doing with our hands. I just soiled my hands. I took out the trash, or I picked something up off the floor. Let's wash our hands often, right? Touching our face, hair, eating, drinking. After any of these activities, wash our hands. So let's just be intentional about it. I think that would be a good step. Let's see. Personal hygiene, food risks. So I want to talk about food risks. So we're buying wholesome food. We're bringing it here. First thing we want to do is make sure we're keeping raw animal foods like fish, meat, poultry separate from any ready-to-eat foods. So vegetables and dry goods should be in a separate refrigerator, or at least stored above the raw food in a refrigerator. So if you have raw chicken, it's on the lower shelf, okay, if you have to store it while you're waiting to cook it. Beef, fish, obviously can be above the chicken, and it kind of goes by cooking temperatures. So raw poultry, I say at the bottom, because that's the one you have to cook to the highest temperature to kill bacteria. So 165 is what we generally cook chicken to. If you cook anything to that, you're going to kill any of the bacteria associated with raw animal foods. So 165 is a good temperature to hit, okay, to keep it simple. But fish could be cooked less. We can talk about, I actually have, I'm going to leave that for you too. It's a chart on what foods need to be cooked to what temperature. So fish would be 145. It would be safe. You would kill any of the inherent bacteria that are in fish at 145. Poultry is 165. Ground beef is in the middle, 160. And eggs would be in the middle as well. So we're going to leave these handouts with you, okay? So we talked cold temperatures. Produce, anything that has to be refrigerated, cream, dairy, eggs, 41 degrees or less. So don't leave things out in a vehicle if you went and picked it up yourself. If you get it delivered, make sure it gets promptly into the refrigerator, and use, somebody should have a thermometer to check temperatures, or you should have thermometers in the facility. Maybe in the refrigerator you have hanging thermometers, or you could just use a food probe, and you could just turn it on and put it in the refrigerator. This should be used anyways when you're cooking foods, right? Let's not guess on, is that chicken done? Use this. Sanitize it before you put it in the food, right? You use alcohol, or just don't take it out of your pocket and use it. So don't guess. Let's see what else. These are things a lot of you already know, I'm sure. But it's a good reminder. I also have a handout. The FDA, these are tools that we give to our restaurant operators all the time. So right now I'm handing out a flyer on FDA safe handling of produce. So it's a really good guide for produce. Buy wholesome produce first of all, store it properly, away from raw meats, and wash it before you use it. So romaine lettuce. Last 2 years we had big recalls. Don't eat the romaine, right? You hear this on the news. You probably couldn't get it in the supermarkets at times. So it has, it's contaminated with something from the growing fields. That's why we wash things. It doesn't kill bacteria, but it would rinse away much of it. So it would minimize any possibility of getting sick. Hopefully the food in this country is a really safe product, but not always the case, right? So produce should always be washed. Tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, especially lettuce, spinach, and things of that nature. So I'm going to leave this as a guide here too. So refer to this for handling of any produce. Cross-contamination. So raw animal foods, we talked about storing them separately. Now when you're in the kitchen, you're starting to prepare things. You're going to cut things. You might be cutting up chicken or fish or whatever it might be. And then somebody has to prepare a salad. So let's do it at different times, or let's do it on a different table altogether. And that way we won't cross-contaminate. When you use a cutting board for raw meats, wash it promptly. Don't leave it there, so somebody might make a mistake. They might come along and see that it's fairly clean and use it. Let's wash things promptly as we use them. So that's real important to make sure that we don't have a foodborne illness outbreak, right? So those are some of the food risks that we could fall into a problem if we didn't follow procedure. So we talked about personal hygiene. We talked about avoiding cross-contamination, some temperature control, right? So cold food, cold, hot food, hot. 41 is cold or lower. And then hot food should be held at a hot temperature. If you have a buffet and you're going to be leaving the food out for a little while, you should have a heat source under it. So hot food hot, 135 or above is what we recommend after it's cooked. So you could leave it there for several hours at 135, as long as your heat source is constant. Now, so temperature abuse could also mean that we take things out of a refrigerator and we use some of it and we leave it out for a while and then we put it back. So somebody else might take it out later. The clock kind of runs on that. So you don't want to leave like cheeses or things out for too long and then put them back in the refrigerator and you think it's okay. So, bacteria's already grown on it, okay? So you got to be careful about abusing time and temperature. Cold food, again, should be kept cold. So in and out of the refrigerator is okay, but let's minimize the time in the danger zone. We talk about room temperature is the danger zone. Anything above 41 starts the clock ticking up to 135. So 41 to 135 is the danger zone. Anything in that zone of temperature is going to grow bacteria rapidly. Like 70, 80 would be the highest growth of bacteria. So let's not do that. Okay. The times that I've inspected here, the dish machine, you have a dish machine right here, a mechanical machine. Is that operational? Okay, I've never operated it, so it's never been functioning, or there hasn't been anybody here. I haven't been here during a function. So does anybody know if it's a high temperature machine or a chemical sanitizer? High temperature. Okay, so the minimum temperature should be 160 to kill bacteria. So we use a tool. You probably don't have this, but there are other tools. There are heat indicators that you could put a sticker onto a dish, put it in the machine, and it's white and it turns black when it hits 160 degrees. This is a maximum recording thermometer. It's got a heat sensor on it, and I put that in the machine and it would record the highest temperature hit. If you're not hitting 160, you're not sanitizing. So on a high temperature machine like yours, 160 is required at the utensil or at the dish. So I could check that if it's operational. Somebody can check that. Maybe next inspection. What time do you open tomorrow? Oh, okay. So equipment though. So let's talk about equipment now. So equipment, if you got like scoops and things that are broken and the handles are they've got holes in them, the caps are missing, and there might be food particles that get inside that utensil, or underneath a piece of plastic in a scoop or a plastic handle. Let's get rid of that stuff, okay? Let's not use it because it's harboring bacteria. Only use utensils that are in good condition, or plates or pans or whatever it might be. So broken equipment just harbors bacteria. It's better off not used. Cleaning is one thing, sanitizing is another thing. So cleaning is removing dirt from or soil from a pan using soap and then rinsing it. In this environment, you want to sanitize too. So put it through the machine, the high temperature machine, or use a 3-compartment sink. Would you ever use manual sink washing? You do that too, okay. So probably bleach is used. Do you use bleach or do you use some other kind of a quaternary ammonia? Anybody know? Todd, do you know? Dawn dish soap. So sanitizer is the last step. So after you use Dawn, you're talking about the soap, right? Not a person. So chlorine is a good sanitizer. It's cheap, it's good, it's better than quaternary, I think, because it kills a multitude of things. Norovirus is something you've all probably heard of, the stomach virus. That isn't killed by quaternary sanitizers. So quaternary is used in a lot of places, but it doesn't kill norovirus. Only bleach does, right? So I use bleach, and I use test strips to make sure it's the right concentration. So 50 to 100 parts bleach will kill bacteria, and it will be a safe residual on pots and pans, glassware, silverware. So in a large sink, probably 2 or 3 or 4 capfuls maybe, and then you test it with a litmus paper, one of these things. So if you don't have these in the kitchen, we have them locally. You can get them on Bourbon Street at the supply, the restaurant supply. So there's 2 different test strips. There's one for quaternary, and there's one for bleach, depending on what you're using. Quaternary is a different concentration, by the way. It's 150 to 400. Bleach is 50 to 100. Okay. Tools that you can use. Yep. Oh, quaternary. So it's quaternary ammonia is what it is. It's a compound that's used in a lot of restaurants. It's more expensive than bleach. It's an ammonia-based sanitizer. So typically, over the years, you used to have iodine, right? You don't see that anymore. Iodine's a good sanitizer, but nobody uses it. Quaternary is used probably more than bleach these days. It's just another compound, but it's a different test strip that you use, okay? More expensive, and I think bleach is better, frankly, but you can use that. Good question. Any other questions? Sanitizing? We good on sanitizing? Dawn. Then bleach. Regular unscented bleach. That's a good question. Don't use like April fresh smell bleach. Just use regular unscented bleach. Okay, good question. Yes. 50 to 100 parts of bleach. So, no, I would use the 50 in a spray bottle, or if you had like a wet wiping cloth. And if you're using wet wiping cloths, if you have a busy kitchen operation and you're making a lot of like sandwiches, say, and using a cutting board and you want to wipe it down, have a wet wiping cloth. I don't know if you use disposable or use rags or whatever. You could use the blue disposable ones, but keep it in the sanitizing solution in between use. That way it doesn't grow bacteria, like a sponge would grow bacteria. If you keep it in a bucket of bleach water at 50 parts, it won't grow bacteria parts per million. So yeah, these test strips, it's got a little chart on it, 50 parts per million. So it's a teaspoon to a gallon of water, basically. That'll give you a good recipe for 50 parts. So, good questions on bleach. Okay.
You wash things one piece at a time. Are you suggesting we fill the sink with the Dawn and bleach?
So, are you talking about maybe making something for your lunch or something in the kitchen?
No, I'm talking about for a function.
Okay.
We would be cleaning like 4 glass dishes at the same time.
Yeah.
We usually just wash them one at a time with the water running. Are you suggesting we fill the sink with the Dawn and the bleach?
Yes, I would always have a, if you're going to be having an active kitchen operation, make your third bin bleach water. And it doesn't have to be, so it doesn't have to be hot water either, right? So it could be 70 degrees ambient temperature with bleach, and it's going to stay efficient for until it gets soiled. If it gets visibly soiled, you change it. But yeah, if you just keep it filled with bleach water, that way you could wash, rinse it, and then just dip it in that for like 30 seconds, and then let it air dry. And then you go on your way, right? So it's already set up. That's the best way to do it. So you don't mixing all the time. So sponges, yeah, we wouldn't use them typically in a restaurant operation or in a kitchen commercial kitchen or licensed kitchen. Because they just harbor bacteria. So, and at home, if you do, I mean, I use the sponge at home, and I don't get sick. We all do, right? A good thing to do at home is every day I happen to boil water every morning for coffee, and I just boil extra, and I pour it over my sponge every day. So I make it just a habit. I do that every day. Kills bacteria, hot water. So you're not to freak you out about sponges. So don't go home and throw your sponges away. So disinfectant wipes, the pop-up wipes that you can buy at BJ's, but you can't buy now because they're all gone. You could use those because they have quaternary ammonia on them. So that's this compound. It's pre-mixed, it's safe, and you can use that. Don't get the scented ones though if it's going to be on a cutting board. Just get the straight. Good. Thank you. So vinegar is going to lower the pH, and it's going to be vinegar is a good, I don't know if it's not an approved disinfectant, but it does lower the pH, and it's an effective cleaning, and it probably does reduce harmful bacteria. But the FDA doesn't approve it, so I can't tell you that it's approved, but I think it works. I would stick with bleach, though, or wipes, something like that. Yeah, equipment, so personal hygiene is real important. So cleaning these things right here, it's, the food in the country is really safe, right? We have the safest food source in the world, probably, right here. It's what we do with it is when we have problems. So if you're not storing it at the right temperature, or you're cross-contaminating it, or somebody's sick coming in and working with food, that's a problem. So food, like I said, inherently is going to have bacteria on it. That's why we cook it, to kill bacteria. So cook it at safe temperatures and don't cross-contaminate. Safe food source, good personal hygiene, good equipment cleaning and facility cleaning. What else we want to talk about? I think I have another slide here. Yeah? Yeah. Yes. Yep. So in the FDA book, it says the regulation is wash your hands before putting on gloves. So it's written in there. Yeah, so when you change functions, remove your gloves and start over. Don't shake hands. Yeah. Or touch your face or body parts, right? Your hair. Yeah, gloves aren't magic, so you don't put them on in the morning and take them off when you leave the kitchen. No, you change them off, and thank you for that. There's a couple other things that I want to leave with you tonight, too, before I talk about food allergens. It's just a couple posters. You can put them in your kitchen, or you can put them in a place where people will see it. I give these are also FDA posters about not coming to work sick. And it's good pictorials, right? So a lot of my, some of my restaurants, I don't always speak the language of the work in there. So today it was interesting. I went to it was an establishment at the mall in the food court, and it was odd because I saw a woman behind the counter who I had never seen before, and it was a Chinese establishment, and she wasn't Chinese. And so I said, well, this is great. I can speak to somebody. But she really wasn't the food handler. Come to find out, she was the cashier, and she was related to the owner. She was a fiance. But anyways, now I'm talking, the regular manager wasn't in. So I'm trying to talk to the cooks, and they're not understanding English. So I heard, yeah, number 7, I heard one of the guys starting to talk Spanish. I said, oh, that'll work. So I have a little kitchen Spanish. I can speak a little bit. And we talked in Spanish with the Asian guy. So it all worked good. We got the message across. So you're already ahead of the game. You all speak the same language, right? You all can get this stuff and make that kitchen the safest kitchen around, right? But I do have some posters anyways. Before you come in and work with food, do I feel well today? If you don't feel well, if you have diarrhea, vomiting, fever, cough, stay home. So I got a couple of great looking posters that you can have. So we give those out too. Any questions about any food questions, anything at all that I probably haven't hit? Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I've heard of the dishwasher, right? I guess that would do it. That would keep it clean. So when you run a cycle, run your sponge through. Boiling water does it. So I've never tried it, but it's going to heat it up and kill bacteria. So that probably works, but I don't know if I want to put my sponge in my microwave though, and then put something else in there.
If you're not using sponge and we're doing hand washing, what do you recommend for us to use?
If you're not using a sponge,
If you're saying sponges are not good, and we're not gonna, like, have a new sponge every time we go into
Yeah.
the kitchen, what?
oh, you could use like these the kitchen wipes that you can buy. They're like blue semi-disposable towels
Yeah,
that you could wipe with.
but for washing dishes.
Yeah, you could wash with that. But you can use a sponge. Just I would clean it. Hot water, right? That would do it.
Just hot water, rinse it out in hot water.
Yeah, you could if you boil a little pot of water, put your sponge in it. It's going to kill all the bacteria. Yeah, Mimi? Yes. Yeah. Okay, so pre-washed lettuce, you don't have to wash. So I would too, because those ones are recalled a lot. If you see the recalls on, it's a lot of times it's the prepared lettuce mix. So maybe the water they're using to wash it isn't the greatest. Something happened. So that's a good example of food coming to you already contaminated, right? This can happen. I think we have a good food source here, and we have a good recall system in the country, but it happens a lot. So good idea to wash it again. I would. Yeah. And it's always good to wash like whole produce if you're going to cut it. So get the contaminants off the outside before you cut the knife. The knife goes through it and then contaminates the meat of the product. So, good questions. Any other food questions? Or any? How long can what? So, there's a 6-hour limit. So on food once it's removed from the source of either refrigeration or from heat. Let's say refrigeration. You can keep it out safely for 6 hours as long as it doesn't hit 70 degrees internal food temperature. So we do the International Festival every year downtown, and not everybody has a heat source or a refrigeration source. And there's some foods that are out for extended periods of time. I think it runs about 6 hours, the event. So we do inspect each booth every year, and we give the guideline, and we try to make sure people have thermometers. So if you take something out of the refrigerator and it sits out for 6 hours and it didn't hit 70 degrees, you're probably not growing enough bacteria to make you sick. That's what the code book says. When you're cooling food, though, so you take it out of a heat source, and now you want to cool something and then put it in the refrigerator and save it. So after the 6 hours, it's got to go, right? Or even after 4 hours, don't try to use it again. If you're just going to leave it unattended without temperature control, I wouldn't try to save it after that point. Cake? Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's probably okay, but the time that it was out without temperature control, it could have grown bacteria, some bacteria. Yeah, probably not very little, right? Yeah. Probably safe, but the best practice is to use it and put it back in the fridge and not leave it out. So the best practice would just be to keep cold things cold and hot things hot, but you're probably not growing bacteria in an hour. Okay. Okay. Yep. Yeah, I would say you probably can. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't just keep it going though after that. Yeah. Good questions. Yep.
So if something is made on a Wednesday, let's say for instance, there's tuna fish made on Wednesday.
Okay.
And it's put out on Wednesday for a function or a meal or something, a luncheon or whatever. And then it's put away. And then it's taken out again on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's in the refrigerator, it's been out for whatever, an hour or so, right, Wednesday. And it's in the refrigerator now Thursday, Friday, and pulled out again on Saturday.
Yeah.
Is that good?
You know what? It really depends on what was the temperature of that tuna when it was out for that hour or so. So on a really hot day and there's no air conditioning going on, you might have grown a lot of bacteria. So it is a concern, and it's like temperature dependent. What temperature did it get to? If it got to above 70, you're probably not good. But if it got up to like 50 or something, probably not growing a lot of bacteria. So. Yeah, so small batches, right? That's a good idea. Take out what you need. Yeah. Or what you think you're going to use. Good question. So my last slide, or last topic, is allergens. So anybody in here have food allergy? What do you have? Tree nuts? Peanuts too, okay. Any other allergies? Lactose, dairy, yeah. So these things are gonna cause discomfort, right, if you're eating them. And tree nuts could cause anaphylactic, and you stop breathing. So I also have a tree nut allergy, but I can eat peanuts. It's not a nut, it's a legume. But I also have an allergy to something called mango, which I found out very by accident. And mango is in the cashew family, just so you know. If you have a reaction and you didn't know what it was and you ate mango, it could have been that if you're a tree nut allergen. So there's eight allergens that the state recognizes that we as food operators have to protect people from. And I'm going to leave you that poster too. If you don't already have one in your kitchen, you might already have this. But this is the 8 allergens. So we have peanuts and tree nuts, fish and shellfish. Those are 2 separate ones. Not kosher. Not kosher. Don't have to worry about that one. So you only have 7. So no pork. Eggs and dairy. and then wheat and soy. So these are the allergens that you have to not give people if they have a dairy allergy. You don't want them to get that food. So the thing about food like bacterias, you can you kill bacteria in food by cooking it, right? Chicken, you kill salmonella at 165. Allergen, you don't cook it out of the food, it's in there. So you can't cook tree nuts out of, walnuts out of brownies. It's, you get it, right? It just can't be in there. So this tells you to know your audience, know your attendees, whoever's coming, they should know. You can put a little table placard out, says, before placing your order, you've seen these in the restaurants, let us know if you have a food allergy. So you should know who's attending your events, and they should know that they gotta tell you if they have a food allergy. And then you're gonna do everything you can to make sure that they don't get that food served to them. So clean equipment, not cross-contaminating equipment. Don't mix the dairy with the vegetable cutting board, right? Don't cut cheese on this man's, on a board that this man's gonna be eating off, right? So this I'm gonna leave with you too. So these are all tools that you can have for your safe kitchen. If somebody does have anaphylactic or they have a food allergy, well, you call 911. Ask if they have an EpiPen, use it, but 911, right? Take it seriously because they can be deadly. So that's food allergies. Other things to consider. So some other risks would be pests. So you should have a pest-free environment in your kitchen, hopefully in the whole facility. So if you have a pest control operator who keeps you on guard, right? You want to keep pests out of the facility. So outer openings should be tight. You shouldn't let anything come in that you don't want in. So doors shouldn't have gaps at the bottom. And foundations shouldn't have cracks that things can get in. If you do a good job of keeping them out, then that's the prevention is the key, right? So integrated pest management, doing everything you can to keep them out of your facility. Rodents carry bacteria. So we have house mice. They get in. Mice get in our homes sometimes. So just know that the feces and the urine is going to be a contaminant. And if you see any food that, if you have mice activity, you should know what the droppings look like, right? So yeah, like Jimmy's. Not the rainbow ones. Sprinkles. We call them sprinkles now. Jimmy's. Yeah, I grew up with Jimmy's. So that's what they look like. If you have those, somebody, you got to let the facility person know. Whoever's in charge of the facility, they need to know. And if you see any compromised food, just throw it out. If there's any chew marks on any food packages, do not use that food. Canned goods, if there's feces on rodent droppings on canned goods, you got to sanitize the can before you open it, right? So keep them out. That's the first thing. Have a pest control person come through the facility once in a while and make sure it's safe. Keep the floors, the walls, keep it clean. Keep the trash away from your building. So, and empty the trash container often. So don't attract things to your facility. Don't keep trash inside the facility in a bag on the floor, say. That's probably not a good idea. If you spill food, clean it up. Don't leave it on the floor. You might attract little flies, fruit flies. Once they get in, they're going to multiply. So these are things that you want to watch for and prepare a plan against pests. Okay. I think that's all that I had prepared. Again, all these posters I'm going to leave here. This is a manual warewashing poster. So wash, rinse, sanitize, okay? And it tells you all about the chlorine in the quaternary that we talked about. So I'm gonna leave all these materials with you tonight. And I also have, a book. So this is great that you invited me here tonight. I don't get to speak to congregations very often. They just don't invite me, right? So they don't want to know. They don't want to know the real deal. But this is a great book. Usually I hand out this book, and churches or groups are satisfied with taking this and going on their way. But you're showing a proactive approach to this, and I appreciate it, because food safety is important. But this book is called Cooking for Groups, and it's a lot of what we talked about tonight in this. And this is put out by the USDA. So good information in here. So whoever's the person in charge, this is yours. That's all I have prepared. Thank you for having me here tonight. And to you.
Any questions? No, you've asked.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So before we let you go,
Yeah.
I understand by city ordinance, we can't give you anything with a value of more than $50. Otherwise, you won't inspect our
Yeah, that's true.
dishwasher next time. So this is a gift on behalf of the synagogue. It has nothing to do with the dishwasher, and it's comparable to your rules and regulations. We're not going over $50. Enjoy Legal Seafood. I hear they're a nice place. Thank you so much.
Look it. Thank you all, and have safe food events. That's great.
Thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.
Rabbi Bernie said you were an expert, and you really are. Thank you so much. We'll make sure that stuff gets laminated. So I'm not going to keep you long. I want to talk about kashrut for a few minutes. I think it's vitally important, though, that we all heard about food safety as first and foremost, because that really is the most important aspect of serving food in a communal setting, in a congregation. We don't want to get anybody sick. So that was first and foremost. We've seen a few things going on over the past, when did we do the first certification? 2 years ago? So 2 years ago, we've seen a few things going on where maybe we've forgotten a few things. We do want to work on some of these new ways of cleaning dishes, and we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about maybe going to the third step and bringing in bleach and whatnot. Yeah, we really have to take this stuff seriously. We know, has he gone? Good. We know we use sponges here, and we've got to stop, because if we're going to be using dirty sponges, we're going to hurt ourselves. We're going to get ourselves sick. So from those standpoints, we're going to improve the kitchen. So what are you? What are you? And why are you here? The reason you're here tonight, obviously, is every one of you will get a certification card like you did in the last time. You're literally an offshoot of the Mashgiach of the synagogue, and that's what I am. I am certified as a Mashgiach. So is Todd, I believe. We've gone through the, orthodox training, at least with regard to what the expectations are of keeping kosher. Some of the things we talked about at the last meeting, we really never implemented, and I think we need to start to consider going down that road. You are all an offshoot now of this certificate of Mashgiach, which means when somebody comes into the synagogue, a guest, somebody comes to a bar mitzvah, a bat mitzvah, or whatever, and it's not being catered, we're doing something for a Shabbat kiddush or something, we're providing the food. They come in here and they say, who's responsible for your kashrut? Can anybody answer that question? Actually, you are. You are. We all are. We all are responsible for the level of kashrut of the synagogue. Now, he said, very interesting, John said, in his home, he uses sponges. And he said, he pours hot water over them. But he did say, I don't recommend it in a communal setting. What Kit and I do in our home is one thing. What you all do in your home is one thing. And your level of kashrut in your home is good for you. We have to hold the highest standard of kashrut here because people are coming here and they may be, at that high level of kashrut. Now, we're a conservative synagogue, right? So they can't expect us to be, the Shomer Shabbat type of congregation that you would see in an Orthodox synagogue because we do break some rules with regard to their standards. But from the standpoint of a conservative synagogue, we really need to be as high at that level as we can be. So I'm going to ask you a question. A lot of people come in here from time to time and heat food up on Shabbat. What's the highest, don't answer. What's the highest temperature we can heat things up for on Shabbat? Maybe you know. It's less than a boiling point. What's the temperature? What is it? Somebody said 200. Somebody said 200, you said? 85? Nah, it's low. Huh? 120 is really that's where you can put your hand on the blech, right, or the cooking surface, and put your hand on it and it won't burn. But if you'll feel hot, but it won't burn. The idea is, what happens on Shabbat? What are you not supposed to do? You're not supposed to create. You're not supposed to cook. You're not supposed to create. So you can't change, the food consistency. You can heat it up, but you can't change the consistency because you're creating. Now, we're a conservative synagogue, and I think I said when I met with us 2 years ago, look, I'll let us go to 225, which is out of the range of that 120, but it's under the range of the 350 where everybody cooks at, right? Most people cook at 350. So we set a standard at that point, and I think that's why you're probably remembering 200. I think we set a standard at the last meeting where we said about 2 to 225. Should not put the ovens above that. So if we can, as all Mashgiach here, right, all the offshoots here, keep that in mind when we are warming things up on Shabbat, when we're putting something together for a Friday night meal or a Saturday meal or whatever. Don't go over that, please. Don't go over that, because we're cooking on Shabbat, and you shouldn't do that. Now, the other aspect is that we're going to have to start cleaning the counters better, as he said. We're going to have to start using ammonia or whatever. We're going to have to get some better cleaning materials from the restaurant store. Bleach, certainly it will clean better. We have to do a better job of that. But that's not going to do the difference. That's not going to separate meat with milk. And we're not separating meat from milk here at the temple at all. We're not doing a good job of that at all on the counters. And I spoke to Todd about this a few months ago. I asked him if he could get us some butcher block paper, because when we're serving meat, we really should cover the counters. And he suggested, rather than the expense of the butcher block paper, let's use the inexpensive dollar tablecloths that we could put down on the counters that we're using for meat. So tonight we are establishing a new rule that we really need to put into place. When we're serving a meat dinner, we are now having to cover the counters. When I say the counters, meaning the ones you're using. Don't cover everything, right? It's not Passover, but cover the ones you're using. Yep. I understand that, and that's why we have to be considerate of, if you're going to put something hot down, we may have to have something on top of it to keep that from happening. And Todd, you have any suggestions on that? Take a sheet pan and put it upside down, all right? We do. So we can use these things to keep us from burning the place down. We don't want to do that. But we have to start to separate, because right now your counters are considered dairy, right? Let's consider them dairy. And when you're doing a meat dinner, you're putting your meat pots down on a dairy counter. Guess what happens to the meat pot? It's treif. Well, it's not treif. It is sort of, yeah. It's been mixed. There's a whole bunch of things I'd like to send you home with about, and I think there's some mistakes. I took this off the web. There's some errors in some of the type. But if you wanted to make your home kitchen kosher, this gives you some basic ideas of what you should and shouldn't do. And one of the things is of the separation and keeping the milk and the meat separate. The parv is obviously something we do a lot of here. So let me give you an example. Friday night, we have a Shabbat dinner. And that dinner on Shabbat, many people have come to me and said to me, can we keep the salad separate so that we can use it tomorrow? The answer is yes, as long as it's on a separate area, it's not near the meat dinner. This isn't an Orthodox custom. This is our conservative custom. It's okay to serve it as long as it's not on the same serving area with the meat, and you're using parv tongs. If you're using the parv tongs, then you haven't made that salad meat. Now, is it optimal? No. I mean, if you were in an Orthodox setting, you would not allow that. But here, in a conservative setting, we would, but you have to be mindful of that. That's how you can use it tomorrow. Now, pickles. We've had pickles, for instance, when we do a deli dinner. You can't use the meat knife. If you've cut the salad with a meat knife and not a parve knife, it's meat. If you've cut the salad with a dairy knife, it's meat. So thank you, Todd. I'm talking about people that are saying to themselves, we're going to make this salad and probably use it separate. And if you're doing that, you're making it with a parve knife. If you're not, it's meat. The minute you touch a meat utensil to anything, that's meat. The minute you touch a dairy utensil to anything, it's dairy. So yes, perhaps I didn't express it properly, so thank you. I'm saying people have come to me and said to me, can we make a salad that's parve? You can, but you have to use a parve knife. And keep it separate and don't put it near the other stuff. Yes? It has to be maintained separate, right? If it's not consumed and it was made meat or made dairy, oh, it's on the table, get rid of it. Yeah, it's on the table, get rid of it. Oh yeah, food that hasn't been eaten from the table, get rid of it. We're not going to save that. We're not doing that, are we? No. If something's coming back from a table, we're throwing that away. Oh, the buffet table? It depends on, like he said, how long it's been out. We've done salads before where if it's been parve, we can use it the next day. So again, it's all common sense stuff and use your head. But we're okay if it's been made with a parve knife and it's put back. So I think what happened is the question of pickles. We have the lunch and learn sometimes. And when we have the lunch and learn, a lot of times we have 2 trays of pickles. And we don't open the second tray. So what's up with the second tray? It's parve. You can use it. You can use it anytime because it hasn't been brought out with the meat. As soon as you open it and somebody sticks a fork in it, what happens to the pickles? They're flakes. So keep those in mind, and we'll have to maintain that. As long as it's sitting next to the deli tray, I don't want us to use the pickles that were sitting next to the deli tray because you put the plastic pickle in there, but Steve may have taken his plastic fork and just took the meat. We don't know that. The Mashgiach wasn't able to see that. So what does Todd cut the pickles with? I don't know. I don't know. What? Ask a question.
I have a question for Todd. When you make our Friday night dinners, and you're making the salad, are you cutting the vegetables with meat?
Well, he is.
You know that.
But he is. I'm saying if we do it. I'm talking about our kiddish group. Yeah.
It's all meat. You can't save it for the next day.
Right. When a caterer brings something in that's meat, everything is meat. When a caterer or an outside vendor brings in something, it's meat. That's it. When we do it, I'm talking about our Kiddush committee, and a lot of you are on the Kiddush committee. Not all of you are. Some of you are from different committees, and that's fine. But if you're on the Kiddush committee, you're specific to Shabbat, cooking or whatever, keep that in mind. That's all. It's just something to give you a chance. May you? Of course you can say something.
Okay. If you're going to dinner and have a meal, there's a small amount of food left over. Don't leave it in the refrigerator. Get rid of it. I'll come in Wednesday or Thursday. I'll find a small plate of salad, wilted, dump it. I'll find a small amount of chicken salad, dump it. If the last one left over, let's pack it up, we'll get rid of it, let's before the tin, and let good amount of food left over. Give somebody who doesn't need it. Don't leave it for the kitchen and say, somebody's gonna use this, someone will give it in a week. They come in here on Thursdays and Fridays, a lot of nights come in here, open the spigot and go, dump, dump, dump. Everything should be dangerous.
Ellen.
If you take food that you brought, like the buffet, and you brought back to the kitchen, hasn't been gone already, you can't, even if it's not open, if it's open, you can't bring it to a Haven or to anywhere else to donate. You can't take it.
Haven.
It's already been
Right. The Haven will not take it, right. A public place like that won't take it. The police station will take it, the fire station will take it, but Haven can't because they have strict rules. Any food distribution place that's open to the public cannot take our food. Police and fire can if we want to get it to there. Ed?
Just want to remind everybody,
Well, actually, we're going to start pointing it at your head when you come in. He's got a thermometer. It's not working.
David Title Block, just in there. But it's better than putting, I see people go over there. I saw somebody just the other day, went out, opened up the oven, put their hand on something that was cooking without gloves and said, it's warm.
None of our people did that.
This is a lot closer.
None of our people did that.
And that's 67 pound step.
We,
Hanging in power
do
closet.
we have a meat thermometer? All right. So we need to get a real meat thermometer, and we need to get the real cleaning solutions and all of these things. We have to do that to upgrade. Beth?
We need to label things, there's a whole notebook of labels. It says horror, dairy, Friday night, whatever. It needs to be labeled, especially dairy or horror. And I know you can't write on Shabbos, but at a later time, the date should be on it, especially if you put it in the freezer. We need to know how long it's been in the freezer.
Right, so when you put something back, date it, label it, and whatever. Yes? Perfect, thank you for that. That's important, and it's important for us to, like he said, when we're done using it, you have to clean it, and you do have to sanitize it, otherwise you're just cross-contaminating. We don't want to hurt people. One more thing I want to talk about with regard to hechsher, because a lot of people call me from time to time when you're out shopping. People call me or text me from various different stores and say, is this kosher? And I get pictures all the time on my phone from you folks that take pictures of things, right? You know, cheese or whatever. And do I know this rabbi's hechsher or whatever? So I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to give you a list of the various different hechsher programs out there. But I want to give you an example of something that happened just the other day with Kit. She said to me, where is it? It's not here. Okay, that's great. She said to me, what was it, coconut oil or something like that? I got it, coconut milk. Kit wanted to know if coconut milk, cream of coconut or whatever it was kosher parv. So we looked at the box, and it says nothing. So what do? I looked it up. And it's the Chicago Rabbinical Council, which we accept, by the way, the CRC. It says coconut milk or coconut cream. Parv, no symbol needed. Boy, will that mess up your day. Yes, Kit. Yeah. Yeah, you can buy it. Yeah, the aerosol one. So you can buy it, but it doesn't have a hechsher on it. So they don't pay for the hechsher, but the CRC accepts it. The problem is you can't do this. The problem is you can't. Some people, I'm not saying for us to use it, I'm just saying, I'm giving you an example that some things don't have a hechsher, and it might be kosher. And and I've gotten calls from people that say, is such and such kosher, and I'll look it up in the OU. Well, that's also a problem, because just before I left my house tonight, I got an alert from the OU. It says, Shucky Kosher, brand, Shucky Kosher, product, all meat and cheese products, company, Shucky Kosher, issue, effective February 1st, 2020. I just got it today. The OU no longer certifies Shucky Kosher. The OU does not stand behind any Shucky products, even when bearing an OU. So you can't even go by the symbol. You can't even go by the symbol. Something obviously happened. They may have messed around. They may not have paid their bill. I don't know what it was. Right. I don't know what it was. Now, the bottom line I'm trying to say to you is, I'm going to give you these handouts. They're going to give you these symbols. They're going to tell you what is and what isn't acceptable, but it changes. And we do have to look these up. And so from time to time, when in doubt on a symbol, you can text me and send me a picture of a product. People do it all the time. Either that or just buy it from Todd. He makes sure that it's kosher all the time, right, Todd? Because he has a Mashgiach in-house. I do want to ask if you have any questions on kashrut. We can be here all night, but I want to make sure that you understand that we do need to separate milk and meat. When we do parv, we don't have enough sinks here to really do it all right. We just don't. So, I mean, if we really did it right, we'd have sinks for milk, we'd have sinks for meat, we'd have a parv sink. We don't have that. So, yes. Yeah, he didn't even tell us we're supposed to use towels, or we didn't ask that question. Yeah, we're really not supposed to be using those towels. We should be using paper towels or air dry. And we're probably going to go out and get more of those throwaway cloth. We really need to get away from the. Yeah, that'll take care of that problem. But paper towel or sanitary types of things, or air dry them. We really should not be using towels. The towels we have, I know somebody every so often takes them home and washes them or cleans them and whatever, but they're filled with germs. All right, so we're going to make the kitchen better. It's not going to be perfect, but here's the deal. You guys are all going to walk out of here tonight with a Mashgiach card. We have been recording tonight. There's a video. No one is going to be able to be the lead in the kitchen unless they have a card, which means if somebody comes in now to do an event, a program, whatever committee you're on, you always are going to have somebody in the kitchen who's got the card, who's watching. You're now going to be the offshoot. You're watching for me. You're watching for you. You're watching for us. And when you see somebody go from station to station with the same gloves, tell them that that's cross-contamination, and we shouldn't do that. When you see them come out into the hall and they shake people's hands and come back in and don't change their gloves, I see it all the time. Let's be nice and remind them that we have to have a little bit more consideration of health and whatnot. And when we do it, we have to be very nice about it. Because unfortunately, people do get their feelings hurt from time to time when we tell them that you didn't wash your hands or go wash your hands. We're only trying to save people. We're trying to make sure that everybody is safe. So be careful how you do it, all right? Yes? Esther? Yeah, the parv closet will, except in Passover, that kitchen will be locked down, right? The parv closet should remain open at all times. What I think we're trying to do here is, rather than just say we're going to lock the door and you can't, it's basically for no mistakes to be made, because you know your eyes can only be so far too. If you're the guy or girl in there, gal in there, and you're watching a group of people and you've got volunteers, by accident somebody who just happens to not know, oh there's a knife, but they're in the meat place and you're doing dairy. So it's better for you when you get in there with your group to just go lock the meat closet, and now you know nobody's going to make that mistake. That's really the idea. Now, is it perfect and is it going to work? I don't know yet. We got to figure that out. We'll figure that out. So I've been trying to fight with myself on this because it is a problem. Whether we should get a bin, an extra bin to set it aside, it's going to be crazy. So I'm thinking that if we're doing, the meat, we're going to do the meat, and we're obviously going to run the parv in the same area. If we're doing the dairy, we're going to do the dairy. We're going to run the parv in the same area. Most of the parv stuff we have, except for the utensils, are glass, right? Most of the parv stuff we have is glass. Most. So, that's okay. But it's when you get into the utensils that's going to be an issue. We're not going to be perfect. We're not an Orthodox shul, and we're not going to be to that level of kashrut. Just be careful, that's all. Just use your common sense on the parv. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Just on the parv, cut up fruit and cut up lettuce that you get. What is the current?
If it's hechshered, it should be parv. If it's hechshered, it should be parv. And Todd, you get your fruits and stuff hechshered, right? and you consider it parv. You can use it either way, right? So it is parv. So the bottom line is once you have something that comes in that's cut up, it should have a hechsher on it. That's the problem with pre-cut stuff from, if you go to Stop and Shop and you buy something from their fruit counter or whatever and it's pre-cut, no, it's got to be in a package and it's got to have a hechsher on it. It does have to have a hechsher on it, yes. The potholes are color-coded, right? Are they color? So they need to be cleared out. That needs to be taken care of. It's a good question, thank you. So obviously, we do have some areas we need to clean up. I noticed the other day we had some blue trays and someone marked meat underneath them. Well, no, but the idea was to try to keep them separate. The problem is they were in the same pile as everything else. If they're going to be meat, then they got to stay away. They can't, plastic cannot be koshered, you know that, right? Once plastic gets contaminated, it's over. We can kosher cutlery and stuff like that, or forks and knives when people mess that up, but you can't kosher plastic. If you mess that up, throw it away. Donate it, right. Yes?
What's the story with raspberries? Are they kosher or not?
Raspberries? So the idea of lettuce, raspberries, strawberries, fruit like that, obviously what will contaminate them? Bugs. Bugs, little bugs that go in it. When you have a salad, you must wash the salad in order to make it kosher. If you're going to make it kosher to his Orthodox level, I think your Mashgiach probably insists that you wash it in soap, right, or in soapy water, until the bugs are no longer there, right? I don't know if we go that far. We don't ask you to sit there and rinse all the lettuce, until you don't see bugs in it anymore. We say clean it, wash it, and whatever, because in the conservative land, we really don't worry too much about the bugs. The bugs are so minuscule, they're so small that we eat them. So in raspberries and strawberries and those types of things, wash them good. They're not going to be served in an Orthodox setting, but here at Temple Ner Tamid, we can use them. All right. Final question or anything? If not, Mimi's got your cards. Mimi, Beth has you. Do we have an EpiPen in the temple? That is an awesome question, and I don't know the answer. I don't think we do. I do know we have an automatic defibrillator in the temple, and I know we have 2 of them. Yeah, the nurse is here.
With an EpiPen, yes, you do need a prescription, which you can get. The problem is they can't really write it to a building, per se. On that note also, it's not a bad idea to have Narcan. It's pretty easy, it's $78 for one Narcan, for a package of 2.
Can you get it?
No.
How do we get it?
I got it, but yeah.
How do we get it?
I don't know if the police
I can get it. All
get
right.
it, but
I'll get
they
it.
can't dispense it. So if they somehow slide it in your pocket,
No, I know that. Narcan.
but it's.
I'll check on the Narcan.
God forbid,
I'll check on the Narcan because I do work with the police. So. Huh? What is Narcan? If someone overdoses on an opiate, that is what you give them to bring them back from the overdose. It's something that people should have in case of an overdose.
pretty much everywhere, in case somebody did overdose. They even have it in the elementary schools. Most likely an elementary kid is not going to overdose, but it's the visitors that come in. I'm sure the same thing with most kids wouldn't need AEDs in elementary school or somewhere like that, but it's the visitors.
I will look into it as I do work with the police, and so I'll see if we're able to get it through them. But that's not kosher. Any other final questions? Because Beth does have your card, and everyone that's here should grab a card. Remember, if you work in the kitchen and you bring somebody with you, you're in charge. You're in charge. You're a mashgiach, right? You're in charge of the kosher. Yes.
I just want to make, now that there are so many people here that are certified, when there is a dinner or a luncheon, you are all welcome to help us clean and clean up.
So you'll start to hear, more little things coming through as we see things. We'll keep you informed, but work with us, help us, and advise us. When you see things that need to be fixed, advise us and let us know. Each person here, take one of these to go home with you, and Beth has your card. And thank you all very much for coming tonight. Thank you.
I don't have one for you because you didn't sign up.
Okay.
I'll get you one.
You know where to put it. I didn't mean it that way.
Did you all get your paperwork while you're waiting? Cazzaletto, Joe? I know, they're alphabetical. They have your names on them, so you're going to have to wait.